What's going on, Not Move Nation? Welcome to the Not Move podcast. Today's February 19th at 8:26 a.m. Eastern Time. NBA is back. We had about a week off. Thank you to our supporters, subscribers, followers. We appreciate you guys. Also, thank you to the sponsors, BetUS, MyBookie.ag, Walmart.com, Open Goal, the MLB and NFL Pro Shops, and Dubby Energy Drinks. All right. I like to get my injury information from rotowire.com, ROTO, wire.com for the NBA. At this time of day, I'm sure, we don't have all of the injury information that we need. So I would look at this website a little bit closer to game time. The first game tips off at 7 p.m. Eastern time. But as of right now, these are the people that they have ruled out on this website. Nick Claxton for Brooklyn out due to an ankle issue. Embiid for Philadelphia out with a right knee and shin injuries. Siakam for Indiana out for personal reasons. Zubats for Indiana is probably out, is what I was seeing this morning. Let me see what they have here. No timetable for return is what they said 2 days ago due to an ankle issue. Obi Toppin for Indiana is probably out as well. Let me read what they had here on his remains out indefinitely. They updated that on February 17th. Alex Sarr for Washington out with a right hamstring issue. Miles Bridges for Charlotte out due to suspension. Diabate for Charlotte out due to suspension. McNeely for Charlotte out with an ankle issue. Kobe White for Charlotte out with a calf issue. Jalen Doran for Detroit out due to suspension. Isaiah Stewart for Detroit out due to suspension. Zach Collins for Chicago out due to a toe issue. He has been out for a while as well. Dylan Brooks for Phoenix. I believe he is going to be out today due to receiving his 16th technical foul. So from my understanding, he's got to do a one-game suspension for that. Cole Anthony for Phoenix is out due to recently being traded. Stephen Curry for the Golden State Warriors out with a knee issue. Franz Wagner for Orlando out with an ankle issue. DeAndre Hunter for Sacramento out with an eye issue. And then questionable players. Neesmith for Indiana, questionable due to a back issue. Typically when players are questionable, there's about a 50-50 chance that they play. TJ McConnell for Indiana out, questionable. Questionable with the hamstring issue. Anunoby for the Knicks, questionable with a toe issue. Mamu Kelishvili for Toronto, questionable with a rib contusion. Giddey for Chicago, questionable with a hamstring issue. Trey Jones for Chicago, questionable with a hamstring issue. Porzingis for Golden State Warriors, questionable with an Achilles issue, but they're saying that he's trending towards playing today. I'd look at that a little bit closer to game time. And then a couple of probable players. Probable meaning that they are likely to play. It's rare that I see players are probable and they do not end up playing, but it does happen from time to time. Jalen Smith for Chicago, probable with a calf issue. And then Jalen Pickett for Denver, probable with a knee issue. First game on the slate, we have the Houston Rockets at Charlotte Hornets. Houston on a one-game losing streak. Charlotte one-game win streak. Charlotte has won one regular season game in a row against Houston. They played each other one time earlier this season. And hold up real quick. Hornets versus Rockets history. First day back. So Hornets won one game in a row. Hornets schedule. I just must have had a typo here. Hornets. Okay, so Hornets won that game that they played earlier this season by a final score of 109-99. That was on February 5th. which was a Thursday, like today, and that was at Houston. Houston is 4-4 on the money line on Thursdays this season. Charlotte's 5-2 on the money line on Thursdays this season. Houston has won 7 games in a row that they've played any team on this exact date, February 19th. Charlotte has won 4 games in a row that they've played any team on this exact date, February 19th. And then Kevin Durant, the projected starting small forward for the Houston Rockets, has an 8-1 career record against Kobe White, but I think I mentioned that Kobe White is out today, right? So that really doesn't apply today. Okay. When I checked this line on Monday at 5:45 a.m. Eastern time, I saw that Houston was favored by 2.5 points, over under 214.5. When I checked at about 5:45 this morning Eastern time, Houston moved minus 4.5. So they were minus 2.5 on Monday. Now they're minus 4.5. The over-under on Monday was 214.5. Now it's at 216.5 when I checked a couple hours ago. Looked at 3 different against the spread trends, and Charlotte wins 2 out of 3 of those trends. Charlotte has the second best against the spread record in the NBA. They're 32-23. Houston has the 6th worst against the spread record in the NBA. They're 23-30. So I'd give Charlotte the advantage there. And then Charlotte, they are 10-8 against the spread as a home underdog. Houston's 10-13 against the spread as a road favorite, so I'll give Charlotte the advantage there. And then Houston, they're 10-9 against the spread after a loss. Charlotte's 13-12 against the spread after a win, but Houston has the higher winning percentage, so I'd give Houston the advantage there. I'll get into the over/under total points in the game for the 2 games that are on Prime Video tonight. But I'll just go ahead and say that Charlotte does have the 2nd worst record to the over this season. They're 21-34, and Houston is 22-30-1 to the over, which ranks 8th worst. Team defensive efficiency, Charlotte ranks 16th. So, from previous shows, defensive efficiency team, I'll give you guys a definition here. Basically, it takes the pace of play out of the equation. It measures a team's effectiveness at preventing opponents from scoring, calculated as the total points allowed per 100 possessions. Sometimes we see really fast teams that really have a good defense, but since they're a fast-paced team, they allow more points and whatnot. So that takes the pace of play out of the equation. Charlotte ranks 16th in team defensive efficiency, so slightly below average since there's 30 teams in the league. Charlotte, they rank 19th in points in the paint allowed per game. So according to teamrankings.com. So they're slightly below average at defending those points in the paint per game. Sengun for Houston ranks 1st on the team in points in the paint per game and actually 4th best in the NBA, followed up by Amen Thompson, who ranks 10th best in the NBA in that category. Fast break points allowed per game. Charlotte ranks 21st in that category, so slightly below average. Amen Thompson's the leader for Houston and ranks 40th in the NBA in fast break points per game. 3-point field goals allowed per game. Charlotte is slightly above average, but I wanted to go ahead and give you guys some 3-point shooters here for Houston today in case you were interested in these players. Reed Shepherd is the leader in 3-point field goals made per game for Houston. He ranks 35th best in the NBA, followed up by Kevin Durant, who ranks 42nd, and then Jabari Smith, who ranks 45th. Charlotte, they're slightly below average in assists allowed per game. They rank 19th in assists allowed per game. And so Sengun ranks 1st on the team and 17th best in the NBA in assists per game. Amen Thompson ranks 28th. Durant ranks 45th. Charlotte, they allow the fewest rebounds per game to opposing teams. So I think those rebound props, could be a little troublesome today unless you're getting a good deal. It's all about what that number's at, So, free throw attempts per game. Charlotte limits their opponents to the fewest free throw attempts per game as well. So that's really another strength there for Charlotte. With Houston, they're a really good defensive team. They rank 4th in team defensive efficiency. So, they do a lot well here. I would say their biggest flaw is fast break points allowed per game. Since Kobe White is the leader for Charlotte, he's out today. The next leader out of available Charlotte Hornets in fast break points per game is going to be Knipple, who ranks, first out of available players for Charlotte today, 49th best in the NBA in fast break points per game. I guess Houston's next biggest flaw is going to be points in the paint allowed per game, but they're still above average in that category. They rank 11th. They rank 5th best in three-point field goals allowed per game, 2nd best in assists allowed per game, 3rd best in rebounds allowed per game. So this is a very talented defense. And by the way, they rank 6th in opponent free throws allowed per game. I did notice that LaMelo Ball has had a triple-double in 1 out of 9 career games against Houston. Şengün has had a triple-double in 0 out of 9 career games against Charlotte. And Amin Thompson has not had a triple-double in 5 career games against Charlotte. Next game, we got the Brooklyn Nets at Cleveland Cavs. Brooklyn, 1-game losing streak. Cleveland, 5-game win streak. James Harden, James Harden needs 11 free throws made. So he needs to make 11 more free throws to move into 3rd place on the all-time free throws leaders list. He would pass Moses Malone on that list. And then just so you guys know, Brooklyn does rank 13th in opponent free throws allowed per game, so slightly above average in that category. But, Harden does lead the team and ranks 4th best in the NBA in free throws made per game, or, free throw attempts per game. So Cleveland has won 5 regular season games in a row against Brooklyn, and they've won the last 9 out of 10 regular season games against Brooklyn. These teams have played against each other one time earlier this season on October 24th at Brooklyn. This game today's at Cleveland, but Cleveland still won that game by 7 points, 131-124. Pretty high scoring game. Brooklyn has a 0-5 money line record on Thursdays this season, but Cleveland is also 0-3 on the money line on Thursdays this season. Brooklyn has won 3 consecutive games that they've played any team on this date, February 19th. And then let's see here. James Harden has an 11-1 career record against Claxton, but Claxton's out today, so that really doesn't apply. Donovan Mitchell had a good record against Claxton as well. Michael Porter Jr. does have a 10-2 career record against Dennis Schroeder. So, Cleveland, when I checked on Monday morning, they were favored by 13.5. When I checked this morning, they were favored by 16.5. So that line has gone up 3 points. And then the over-under on Monday was 225.5. When I checked this morning, is at 230.5. I looked at 3 different against the spread trends in this matchup. Brooklyn wins all 3 of those trends. Now, that doesn't mean to just go with Brooklyn against the spread, or maybe it does. But, if I were watching a show like this, I'd be keeping track of this stuff. How many times that a team wins these against the spread trends do they end up covering or winning, But anyways, Brooklyn does, win all 3 of these trends that I looked at. Overall, Brooklyn is better against the spread than Cleveland. Brooklyn's 26-1 against the spread. Cleveland's 23-32 against the spread, which ranks 4th worst in the NBA. And then Brooklyn is 12, 13, and 1 against the spread as a road underdog. Cleveland's 10 and 17 against the spread as a home favorite, which ranks sixth worst in the NBA. And then Brooklyn, they're better against the spread after a loss than Cleveland is after a win. And then, both of these teams do have losing records to the over. Brooklyn is 25 and 28 to the over this season. Cleveland's 26 and 29 to the over. Team defensive efficiency, Brooklyn ranks 25th, so they're near the bottom of the league in that category. They also rank 25th in points in the paint allowed per game. So Jarrett Allen is going to be that leader here for Cleveland in points in the paint per game, ranks 21st best in the NBA, followed by Evan Mobley, who ranks 26th, Donovan Mitchell, who ranks 27th. Fast break points allowed per game. Brooklyn allows the third most fast break points per game to opposing teams. Donovan Mitchell is not only the leader for Cleveland in that category, but ranks fifth best in the NBA. Brooklyn is actually really good at defending against that three-point shot. They rank sixth best in the NBA in three-point field goals allowed per game, assists allowed per game. Brooklyn ranks 22nd in that category, so they are below average in allowing assists per game to opposing teams. Harden ranks first on Cleveland, fifth best in the NBA in assists per game, followed by Donovan Mitchell, who ranks 23rd, Schroeder, who ranks 34th. Brooklyn is slightly above average in rebounds allowed per game. They rank 13th in that category, but I did want to just go ahead and mention that Mobley is the leader for Cleveland in rebounds per game and ranks 15th best in the NBA, followed up by Jarrett Allen, who ranks 22nd. We already mentioned, Brooklyn ranks 13th in opponent free throws allowed per game, opponent free throw attempts per game, I should say. Harden is the leader for Cleveland, ranks fourth best in the NBA in free throw attempts per game, followed by Mitchell, who ranks 20th, Mobley, who ranks 35th, Jarrett Allen, who ranks 42nd. All right, let's talk about this Cleveland defense. They do rank 12th in team defensive efficiency, so slightly above average. They do a great job at limiting those points in the paint per game. They rank sixth best in that category. Where they struggle is the fast break points allowed per game. They rank 25th in that category, but I didn't see anybody for Brooklyn in the top 50 of the NBA in fast break points per game. But maybe if you like one of those fast break points per game leaders for Brooklyn today, you have that in your favor. And then Cleveland is slightly below average at defending those 3-point field goals made per game to opposing teams. They rank 23rd in that category. We know Michael Porter Jr. is good at, 3-point shooting. He ranks second best in the entire NBA in 3-point field goals made per game. And then Dimon ranks 31st best in the NBA in 3-point field goals made per game. Cleveland, they're slightly above average in assists allowed per game. They rank 14th in that category. Rebounds allowed per game, they rank 22nd, so they're slightly below average. Claxton, he's unavailable today. He is the leader for Brooklyn, but the next man up is going to be Michael Porter Jr., who ranks 34th best in the NBA in rebounds per game, and then Sharp, who ranks 41st in that category. Cleveland, they do send their opponents to the free throw line a little bit. They rank 17th in opponent free throw attempts per game. Michael Porter Jr. ranks first on the team and 37th best in the NBA in free throw attempts per game. James Harden, he's only had a triple-double in one out of his last 25 games against Brooklyn. But maybe he's had, a bunch of triple-doubles against Michael Porter Jr. throughout his career. That's something I would look up, too, if I were interested in a James Harden triple-double prop. I didn't, look at Harden versus Michael Porter Jr. And same with these other triple-double stats that I'm going to be talking about. I didn't really look at, head-to-head player matchups. That's something else that I think, could be beneficial. Atlanta at Philadelphia. Atlanta's on a 3-game losing streak. Philadelphia, 2-game losing streak. Atlanta has won 7 regular season games in a row against Philadelphia. These teams have played each other twice this season. Obviously, Atlanta won both of those games. The first game was on November 30th at Philadelphia, like it is today. And Atlanta won by 8 points in double overtime, 142 to 134. The most recent game was on December 14th at Atlanta, and Atlanta won by 3 points, 120 to 117. So a couple high-scoring games there. Atlanta has a 2-4 money line record on Thursdays this season. Philadelphia's 5-1 on the money line on Thursdays this season. Atlanta, I mentioned that they've won 7 regular season games in a row against Philadelphia, but Atlanta has lost 7 consecutive games that they've played against any team on February 19th. And then Embiid's out today, isn't he? So that doesn't really apply. Okay. When I checked on Monday morning, Philadelphia was favored by 4.5 points. When I checked a couple of hours ago, Philadelphia was favored by 1.5 points. On Monday morning, the over-under was 235.5. Now it's at 236.5. When I checked a couple of hours ago, looked at 3 different against the spread trends in this game. Philadelphia leads that trend 2-1. So it's 2 out of the 3 of the trends that I looked at. Philadelphia against the spread trends. Philadelphia won 2 of those. Just in general, Philadelphia is better against the spread than Atlanta. Philadelphia has the 6th best against the spread record in the NBA. They're 30-24. Atlanta is 26-30 against the spread. So Philadelphia advantage there. Atlanta is 11-8 against the spread as a road underdog, which is better than Philadelphia's 8-11 against the spread record as a home favorite. So I give Atlanta the advantage there. And then Philadelphia, they have the 3rd best against the spread record after a loss in the NBA. They're 16-7 against the spread after a loss. Atlanta, they're 13-16 against the spread after a loss, which ranks 6th worst in the NBA. And then I just wanted to let you guys know that, Atlanta's 29-27 to the over, which ranks 8th best in the NBA. Philadelphia's 28-26 to the over, which ranks 7th best in the NBA. Atlanta team defensive efficiency, they rank 18th in that category, so they're slightly below average. Atlanta, they're also slightly below average in points in the paint allowed per game. So I could see Maxey possibly taking advantage of that today, considering that he ranks 1st on the team, 19th best in the NBA in points in the paint per game. Fast break points allowed per game, Atlanta allows the 4th most. Here's Maxey again. That's one of his strengths. He ranks 1st on the team, 2nd best in the NBA in fast break points per game. And then it's Beauchamp, who ranks 34th in the NBA. 3-point field goals allowed per game. Atlanta ranks 17th, so slightly below average at that. Maxey's the leader for the team and ranks 8th best in the NBA. So I see, Maxey is on this list a lot, points in the paint, fast break points, 3 points, all of which Atlanta are below average at defending. Now, I'm not saying fire up Maxey props. I'm not saying do or don't, right? Obviously, there's a lot more information that you guys could look up throughout the day if you haven't already. Assists allowed per game. Atlanta ranks 21st in that category, so slightly below average. Maxey, once again, he's the leader in assists per game for the Sixers, ranks 12th best in the NBA. Then it's Edgecombe, who ranks 50th. And then Atlanta, rebounds allowed per game, they rank 24th in that category, so they're near the bottom of the league and allowing those rebounds. And then I saw Drummond leads the Sixers in rebounds per game. He ranks 18th best in the NBA. Atlanta, free throw attempts, opponent free throw attempts per game, they rank 18th, so slightly below average. Maxey, again, ranks 18th best in the NBA in free throw attempts per game and 1st on the Sixers in free throw attempts per game. Now let's talk about Philadelphia's defense. They rank 15th in team defensive efficiency, so they're a little bit better at that than Atlanta. Philadelphia is above average in points in the paint allowed per game. They rank 12th in that category, but maybe with Embiid being out, changes that a little bit, um, or maybe it helps more. I'm not sure, but that's something that I'd be looking at if you're interested in this game. Any props for Atlanta today? And then Philadelphia, they allow the fifth most fast break points per game to opposing teams. Jalen Johnson's the leader for Atlanta and ranks sixth best in the NBA in fast break points per game. And then it's Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who ranks seventh, Riza Shea, who ranks 33rd. Philadelphia, 3-point field goals allowed per game. They rank 14th, so slightly above average, but I still wanted to go ahead and get you guys those 3-point leaders here for Atlanta. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is the leader for the team and ranks 14th best in the NBA in 3-point field goals made per game. And then it's CJ McCollum, who ranks 28th in that category. Philadelphia, they allow the fifth most assists per game to opposing teams. Jalen Johnson is the leader for Atlanta and ranks fourth best in the NBA in assists per game. And then it's Dyson Daniels, who ranks 20th. And then rebounds allowed per game, Philadelphia ranks 23rd, so they're slightly below average at limiting their opponent's rebounds per game. Jalen Johnson's the leader for Atlanta. He ranks seventh best in the NBA in rebounds per game. And then it's Okongwu, who ranks 27th, and then Dyson Daniels, who ranks 50th. Philadelphia, they're slightly below average in opponent free throw attempts allowed per game. So Jalen Johnson is going to be that leader for Atlanta in free throw attempts per game. And then it's Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who ranks second. Jalen Johnson ranks 27th best in the NBA in that category in free throw attempts per game. And then Alexander Walker ranks 48th in that category. Jalen Johnson has had a triple-double in 1 out of 10 career games against Philadelphia. Maxey has not had a triple-double in 12 total career games against Atlanta. All right, and then we have a real fun game here. Am I busy right now? Yeah, I'm a little busy. Why? What's up, Karen? If you had a question or something, I'd be happy to see if I could help. Okay, Indiana, they're on a 2-game win streak. Washington, 3-game losing streak. Washington has won 1 regular season game in a row against Indiana, but Indiana has won the last 4 out of 5 regular season games against Washington. These teams have played each other twice this season. They've played against each other twice this season, and each of these teams have won 1 game against each other. The first game was on November 28th, and Indiana won by, 896, 106, 33 points. And that game was at Indiana. This game today is at Washington. The most recent game was on December 14th at Indiana, and Washington won 108-89. Indiana has a 1-3 money line record on Thursdays this season. Washington's 2-4 on the money line on Thursdays this season. I did notice that Siakam has a 5-0 career record against Sarr, but that really doesn't matter because Sarr is out, right? Seems like all of these players are out that have favorable career records. Okay. Yeah, it looks like Alex Sarr is out. Yeah. Okay. And didn't we say Zubac was out? Yeah. The most rebounds that Siakam, the projected power forward. Oh, Siakam's out too? Yeah, Siakam's out. Okay. So never mind. All right, so Indiana, when I checked Monday morning, they were favored by 2.5 points. When I checked this morning, they're favored by 3.5. The over-under Monday morning was 233.5. When I checked earlier this morning, it dropped to 232.5. I looked at three different against the spread trends, and Indiana has a 2-1 advantage in those trends. Indiana, they're better against the spread than Washington this season. Indiana's 28-27 against the spread. Washington's 22-31 against the spread. So give Indiana the advantage there. Indiana is 0-2 against the spread as a road favorite this season, which is the worst in the NBA, but that's a small sample size, But Washington is 11-13 against the spread as a home underdog, which ranks seventh worst in the NBA, but still I give Washington the advantage there. Then Indiana is 9-5 against the spread after a win, which ranks first in the NBA. Washington 18-20 against the spread after a loss, which ranks 10th worst in the NBA. So I'd give Indiana the advantage there. Washington does have the sixth best record in the NBA to the over this season. Indiana has the sixth worst record to the over this season. Team defensive efficiency. Both of these teams are bad at team defensive efficiency, mainly Washington. Washington, they rank 26th in points in the paint allowed per game. But, the leaders for Indiana today are out. Those points in the paint leaders, Zubats and Siakam. So, there's got to be somebody that probably steps up for Indiana and takes advantage of that defensive vulnerability for Washington. So I would maybe, consider some guys that are that rank next on the list and leaders in points in the paint per game for Indiana. Washington really they do everything bad. They do everything bad here. Fast break points allowed per game, they rank 22nd in that category, but Siakam's out. So if you can find a fast break guy you like today, 3-point, basically shop is open today for Indiana. Washington does rank second worst in assists allowed per game to opposing teams. Nembhard is supposed to be available here today for Indiana. He leads the team in assists per game, ranks seventh best in the NBA in that category. Then it's TJ McConnell, who I believe I said was questionable at the start of the show, questionable to play, but he does, rank second best on the team in assists per game and 38th best in the NBA. The rebound leaders for Indiana are out today, Zubats and Siakam. If you like somebody for Indiana on the rebounds, I could see that happening considering that Washington allows the most rebounds per game to opposing teams. And then Washington, they send their opponents to the free throw line a lot. They rank 27th in opponent free throws attempts allowed per game. So they allow the fourth most. Since Siakam is out, Nembhard is that leader for Indiana and ranks 43rd best in the NBA in free throw attempts per game. Indiana, they're slightly below average in team defensive efficiency. They rank 21st in that category. They allow the third most points in the paint per game to opposing teams this season. But with Anthony Davis and Sarr being unavailable for Washington, that hinders this Washington offense. But if you can find somebody that you like for Washington who's decent at scoring points in the paint, you do have that advantage today. Indiana's really good at limiting not just fast break points per game. They rank 8th best in that, but 3-point field goals allowed per game. They rank first in that category in 3-point field goals allowed per game. I don't know if I mentioned, but Washington does rank 22nd in 3-point field goals allowed per game. I just didn't see anybody for Indiana who ranked in the top 50 of the NBA in 3-point field goals made per game. Indiana does a good job at limiting the assists per game, too. They rank 9th best in that category, but they allow the second most rebounds per game to opposing teams. But with Alex Sarr being out, I'd maybe, try to see who that next leader is for Washington or the next couple of leaders. If you like a Washington rebound prop, or maybe you come across somebody's live stream today that likes, somebody's rebounds for either of these teams. And I could see that happening. Just depends on some other factors, but that's not a bad place to look. And Indiana does send their opponents to the free throw line often. They rank 28th in opponent free throw attempts allowed per game. So I just didn't find anybody for Washington in the top 50 of the NBA in free throw attempts per game. But if you know somebody for Washington who's decent at drawing some contact, I think you got that working for you today. All right, then we have the Detroit Pistons at New York Knicks. Let's see here. We got 5 games left. I'm going to have to get off the waves here in about 15 minutes. I'm going to try to break this down as quickly as possible and give you guys information I think is valuable. Detroit, 3-game win streak. Knicks, 1-game win streak. This game is on Prime Video. Detroit, they've won. One second. Excuse me. All right. Detroit has won 5 regular season games in a row against the Knicks. These teams have played against each other twice this season. Obviously, Detroit won both of those games. The first game was on January 5th. That game was at Detroit. Once again, this game today is at New York. But in that game, Detroit won by 31 points, 121-90. The most recent game was on February 6th, and Detroit still won handily, 118-80. Detroit has a 1-4 money line record on Thursdays this season. The Knicks are 2-1 on the money line on Thursdays this season. Detroit has lost 4 consecutive games that they've played any team on February 19th. Ausar Thompson scored his career high in points, which was 22 points. Thompson plays for the Detroit Pistons, but he scored his career high in points against the Knicks on 4/29/2025. I don't know if that game was in, let me look it up, in Detroit or in New York. Ausar Thompson, most points in a game. Let's look that up real quick. That was at New York, like it is here today. So if you like him today, you do have that historical advantage in your favor. Ausar Thompson. And then I noticed that Tobias Harris, the projected starting power forward for Detroit, has a 16-8 career record against Karl Anthony Towns. When I checked Monday, Detroit was favored by, the Knicks were favored by 2.5 points. When I checked this morning, the Knicks were favored by 4.5 points. And then on Monday morning, when I looked, the over-under was 222.5. When I checked a couple hours ago, it was 223.5. I looked at 3 different against the spread trends. I saw that the Knicks win 2 out of 3 of those trends. Total points in this game. I mentioned it was 223.5 when I looked this morning. The last 5 out of 10 meetings between these teams have had a total of 224 or more points. Okay. And then I noticed that Detroit averages 117 points per game on the road this season. The Knicks allow 110.1 points per game at home this season. You get the average of that. Detroit, a projected 113.55 points. And then I did the same method with the Knicks, and so I came up with 116.25 with the Knicks. So a grand total of 229.8 projected points in this game. But I think we also have to consider that Isaiah Stewart's out, Doran's out, and Anunoby is questionable. But, Detroit is not good to the over. In games that they play, their games aren't really going over very much. They have the 9th worst record to the over this season. They have the 8th worst record to the over as a road underdog and the 7th worst record to the over after a win. And then I do want to mention, though, real quick, Detroit is a perfect 6-0. It's a relatively small sample size, right? But they are a perfect 6-0 against the spread as a road underdog this season, which is best in the NBA. The Knicks are 18-9 against the spread as a home favorite, which ranks 5th best in the NBA. The Knicks also have the 2nd best record against the spread after a win. And overall, the Knicks have the 9th best against the spread record. They're 31-25. Detroit's 28-25. So the Knicks have played 3 extra games. I didn't see, any big time vulnerabilities in either defense here. Detroit, I've mentioned this on previous shows. They're very good at team defensive efficiency. They rank 2nd in that category. The Knicks rank 11th. But the biggest flaw that I see for the Knicks are going to be that 3-point defense. They rank 21st in 3-point field goals allowed per game, slightly below average. Not a huge vulnerability, but, I think 3-point shooters for Detroit could possibly take advantage of that, specifically Duncan Robinson, considering he ranks 1st on the team in 3-point field goals made per game and 16th best in the NBA in that category. Also, the Knicks are just slightly below average at sending their opponents to the free throw line. They rank 16th in free throw attempts allowed per game. Cade Cunningham for Detroit ranks 1st on the team, 12th best in the NBA in free throw attempts per game. And then Doran, who's out, but he ranks 29th best in the NBA in that category. Detroit, their biggest vulnerability is sending their opponents to the free throw line. They allow the most free throw attempts per game to opposing teams. So I think Karl-Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, and maybe some of these other guys could take advantage of that today. But, Karl-Anthony Towns does lead the Knicks in free throw attempts per game, ranks 19th best in the NBA. Jalen Brunson ranks 25th best in the NBA in that category. Two solid defensive teams. Detroit does allow the fewest assists per game to opposing teams. Just wanted to mention that. And then Cade Cunningham has had a triple-double in 1 out of 11 career games against the Knicks. Josh Hart has had a triple-double in 1 out of 15 career games against Detroit. Toronto at Chicago. Toronto, 1-game losing streak. Chicago, 6-game losing streak. Toronto has won 1 regular season game in a row against Chicago, but Chicago has won the last 4 out of 5 regular season meetings against Toronto. These teams played each other 1 time earlier this season, and Toronto won that game by a final score of 123-107. That game was at Toronto. Today's game's at Chicago, and that game was also played on February 5th. Toronto has a 3-1 money line record on Thursdays this season. Chicago has a 1-2 money line record on Thursdays this season. I did notice that Giddey's questionable for Chicago today, okay? But let's say he does play, and let's say Emmanuel Quickly plays. I did notice Giddey has a 7-1 career record against Quickly. When I checked on Monday, that line was Toronto favored by 4.5. When I checked this morning, I saw Toronto favored by 5.5. Over under 230.5 on Monday morning. I saw that climbed up to 232.5 when I checked a couple hours ago. I looked at 3 different against the spread trends, really for all of these games. Sometimes I'll look at 4, but everybody's had a lot of time off, so I didn't look at the rest advantage versus rest disadvantage splits. But Toronto does win 2 out of 3 of those against the spread trends. I do want to mention that Toronto has the 4th worst record to the over this season. They're 22-33 to the over. Chicago's 27-28 to the over. Toronto's pretty good when it comes to team defensive efficiency. I would say, their biggest vulnerabilities are going to be the opponent free throws allowed per game. They rank 21st in that category, so slightly below average. I didn't find anybody for Chicago in the top 50 of the NBA in free throw attempts per game. But if you know somebody for Chicago who's decent at drawing some fouls, I could see them getting to the line a little bit more today than maybe some other days. And then, Toronto, they rank 12th in rebounds allowed per game, so slightly above average. And then 11th in three-point field goals allowed per game, slightly above average. So if you do like a rebound prop for Chicago today or a three-point prop, I don't think it's impossible, It depends on a bunch of other factors. But, Chicago, they rank 26th in team defensive efficiency, so they are not very good in that regard. Scotty Barnes is the leader for the team for Toronto and points in the paint per game. He ranks 17th. Well, let me backtrack. I don't know if I mentioned Chicago ranks 27th in points in the paint allowed per game, so fourth worst in that category. Scotty Barnes leads the Raptors in points in the paint per game. He ranks 17th in that category. RJ Barrett is the next man up. He ranks 46th best in the NBA. Fast break points allowed per game, Chicago ranks 15th, so they're average at limiting that. Barrett ranks 9th best in the NBA, Quickly 22nd, Scotty Barnes 42nd, Ingram 45th. Chicago ranks 25th in three-point field goals allowed per game, so Quickly I could see possibly taking advantage of that today, considering he ranks first on the team and 26th best in the NBA in three-point field goals made per game. Assists allowed per game, Chicago ranks 28th, so they allow the third most assists per game to opposing teams. Quickly ranks first on the team, 22nd best in the NBA in assists allowed per game. Then it's Scotty Barnes, who ranks 25th, and then Jamal Shed, who ranks 29th. Chicago slightly below average at limiting rebounds per game to opposing teams. They rank 17th in that category. Scotty Barnes ranks 21st in the NBA in rebounds per game and first on the Raptors in that category. Giddey has not had a triple-double in 10 career games against Toronto, and then Scotty Barnes has had a triple-double in 1 out of 15 career games against Chicago. I'm going to have to fly by these next games real quick. Okay, so the Spurs, 6-game win streak. They're hosting Phoenix today, who's on a 1-game losing streak. Phoenix has won 3 regular season games in a row against the Spurs, and Phoenix has won the last 4 out of 5 regular season games against the Spurs. These teams have played each other twice this season, and Phoenix won both of those games. Let's see here. Phoenix is 4-2 on the money line on Thursdays this season. The Spurs are 7-0 on the money line on Thursdays this season. I did notice that Grayson Allen has a 10-4 career record against Fox. Mark Williams has a 3-0 career record against Harrison Barnes. And the most points that Royce O'Neal for the Phoenix Suns has ever scored in a game was on February 20th, 2025 at San Antonio, like it is here today. He scored 27 points. I checked Monday morning. Line was 6.5 in favor of San Antonio. I checked this morning, San Antonio minus 7.5. Over-under climbed a couple points. It went from 225.5 on Monday to 227.5 today. I looked at those 3 different against the spread trends. I saw that Phoenix wins 2 out of 3 of those trends. I don't like I said, I'm gonna have to fly by these last games here. The Spurs, I see their biggest vulnerability is going to be 3-point field goals allowed per game. They rank 15th in that category, so I could see Gillespie possibly taking advantage of that. Royce O'Neal, Dylan Brooks, and then Phoenix, they rank 14th in rebounds allowed per game, so I could see Wembanyama and or Cornette possibly taking advantage of that today for San Antonio. Also, Phoenix does rank 20th in opponent free throw attempts per game, so Wembanyama ranks first on the team, 10th best in the NBA in that category, in free throw attempts per game, and then it's Castle, who ranks 24th. Boston at Golden State. This game is on Prime Video as well. Steph Curry, he's out. Boston, they've won 1 regular season game in a row against Golden State. These teams haven't played against each other this season. Boston 3-1 on the money line on Thursdays this season. Warriors 4-4 on the money line on Thursdays this season. Al Horford now plays with Golden State. He used to play with Boston, so if you like that revenge aspect, you have that. He did leave in free agency though, so I don't necessarily consider that a true revenge game. I think getting traded is the true revenge spot. But Vucevic, who plays for Boston now, scored a career high 43 points against Golden State. That game was in Chicago, but he did, get his career high points against Golden State, 43 total points on January 15th of 2023. I saw Boston was favored by 3.5 points on Monday. When I checked this morning, they're favored by 5.5. Over under dropped significantly since Monday morning. It was 223.5 on Monday morning. Now it's at 213.5. Looked at three different against the spread trends. Boston leads all three of those trends. Golden State, they are the third best. They are the third best team to the over this season. Boston is the worst team in the NBA to the over. I did notice, since that over under is 213.5, I did notice that 8 out of the last 10 meetings between these teams have had a combined total of 214 plus points. Big vulnerability I see here with Boston is the 3-point defense. Curry's not in there today, who's the main 3-point shooter for Golden State and ranks first in the NBA. But Moody is the best in 3-point field goals made per game for Golden State out of available Golden State Warriors today, and he ranks 37th best in the NBA. So that's the big vulnerability I see there. And then with Golden State, the big vulnerability I see with them is that they rank 24th in fast break points allowed per game. So Jaylen Brown is the leader for Boston and ranks 17th best in fast break points per game. Golden State's also slightly below average in points in the paint allowed per game. So Jaylen Brown ranks 9th. Vucevic ranks 50th in points in the paint per game. And then, assists allowed per game, rebounds allowed per game. Golden State's average at defending against that. I don't have time to go over the leaders there. We got 2 games left. Let me see if I can fly through them. Orlando, 1-game losing streak. Sacramento, 14-game losing streak. DeRozan needs 2 field goals made to move into 22nd place on the all-time career leaders for field goals list. He would pass Moses Malone. Orlando's won 2 regular season games in a row against Sacramento. Sacramento's 0-5 on the money line on Thursdays this season. Orlando's 4-2 on the money line. Westbrook, let's see. No, he's not playing today. Westbrook is, but Wagner I don't think is. Yeah, Wagner's out. Westbrook does have a 4-1 career record against Banchero, but Banchero has a 6-1 career record against DeRozan. And then Sabonis, I believe, is out for the year now. When I checked on Monday, Orlando was favored by 11.5. This morning, I saw Orlando favored by 8.5. Over/under stayed about the same. It's climbed 1 point since Monday, 223.5 to 224.5. Orlando, I looked at 3 different against the spread trends. Orlando wins 2 out of 3 of those. Sacramento, they're just a bad defensive team. They rank 28th in team defensive efficiency. So if you like anybody for Orlando today, you really got that working for you. Sacramento's not terrible at defending against fast break points or 3-pointers, but they're really bad at defending points in the paint allowed per game. So I can see Banchero possibly taking advantage of that since he ranks first on the team as of right now, since Wagner's out. He's the best on Orlando in points in the paint per game, ranks 36th best in the NBA in that category. And assist allowed per game, Sacramento ranks 24th. So if you like Banchero for really assists, rebounds, points, I do see some advantages here. Once again, there's obviously some other information that you guys could look at. Both of these teams do send their opponents to the free throw line pretty often. DeRozan is the leader for Sacramento in free throw attempts per game, ranks 28th in the NBA. Banchero for Orlando ranks 6th best in the NBA, and then Bane ranks 50th. 3-point field goals allowed per game. I do want to mention that both of these teams are a little bit above average at defending against that. And then Westbrook has had a triple-double in 9 of his last 25 games that he's played against Orlando. Denver at Clippers. Today is Jokic's birthday. Denver's won 4 regular season games in a row against the Clippers. These teams have played against each other twice this season, and Denver won both of those games. Denver has a 5-1 money line record on Thursdays this season. The Clippers 2-4 on the money line on Thursdays this season. But the Clippers have won 5 consecutive games that they've played any team on this exact date, February 19th. Jokic has a 5-1 career record against Mathurin, an 11-4 career record against John Collins. Jamal Murray has a 6-0 career record against Mathurin. Valanciunas scored his career high points, 39 points at Los Angeles Clippers, like it is here today. He scored that 39 points on November 29th, 2021. And then Bogdanovich for the Clippers scored a career high 40 points against Denver on December 11th, 2023. And that game was at Atlanta, though. That was back when he played with Atlanta. The line has just moved a little bit. Denver -3.5 on Monday. Now it's at -4.5. Over under 225.5 on Monday. Now it's at 226.5. I see that Denver wins 2 out of the 3 against the spread trends that I looked at. Denver does have the best record to the over this season out of all teams in the NBA. Some guys that I could see taking advantage of some vulnerabilities today could be, Kawhi Leonard. Denver is average at points in the paint allowed per game. Kawhi is ranks 31st in points in the paint per game. Denver fast break points allowed per game, slightly below average. Kawhi ranks 4th best in the NBA in fast break points per game. Mathurin ranks 32nd. 3-point field goals allowed per game. Denver slightly below average, ranks 16th. Kawhi Leonard ranks 24th best in the NBA in that category. And then Brown, I think he could take advantage of the fast break defense by the Clippers today. The Clippers rank 20th in fast break points allowed per game, so slightly below average. Brown for the Nuggets ranks 26th. There's 2 Browns. Christian Brown ranks first on the team, 26th best in the NBA. And then it's Tim Hardaway Jr., who ranks 47th best in the NBA in that category. And then the Clippers are slightly below average in allowing 3-point field goals made per game to opposing teams. So Jamal Murray ranks 10th best in the NBA, first on the team in 3-point field goals made per game. And then it's Tim Hardaway Jr., who ranks 19th best in the NBA. And I do also want to mention that Denver ranks 14th in opponent free throw attempts allowed per game. So they're a little bit above average at limiting that. But I could see Kawhi Leonard, possibly taking advantage of that today. He ranks 14th best in the NBA in free throw attempts per game. And then I did notice that Jokic has had a triple-double in his last 8 out of 25 games against the Clippers. So there you have it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you to the supporters, subscribers, followers. We really appreciate you guys. Also, thank you to the sponsors, BetUS, MyBookie.ag, Walmart.com, Open Goal, the MLB and NFL Pro Shops, and W Energy Drinks. All right, take care, everybody. Good luck today, and I'll see you soon.
This non-casual podcast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or reused without the authorized written consent of the Not Move Podcast Network. Thank you, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.